Have you ever stopped and just wondered how exactly the food we eat magically transforms into the energy that literally powers our lives? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack the incredible 8 to 10 meter journey of our digestive system. And hey, don't worry, we are entirely skipping the boring textbook lectures here. We're going to decode the amazing real-time science happening inside you right this very second.
All right, so here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll map out that wild 8 to 10 meter journey. Next, we'll look at the mouth's built-in security and chemical sensors. Then we hit the body's main kitchen, followed by the small intestine, which is literally the size of a tennis court. We'll wrap up with the evolutionary story of the appendix, and finally, the real unsung heroes, digestive enzymes. Let's dive right in.
Okay, Section 1, the 8 to 10 meter journey. Now you might be thinking, how on earth does a tube that's up to 10 meters long fit inside us? Well, it's heavily coiled and folded, kind of like a long rope crammed into a really small box. And to understand this whole path, we gotta know the sequence. If you're studying for exams right now, here's a super foolproof memory shortcut for you. Mo, gra, a, cho, ba, gu. Translated from the original mnemonic, that stands for mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and anus. This exact sequence is the rock-solid foundation of the entire digestive process.
Moving on to Section 2, Mouth, Security and Chemical Sensors.
So, digestion actually doesn't start in your stomach like most people think. It starts the literal second a bite of food passes your lips. Right away, your saliva goes to work. And here's a cool fact. Saliva is 99.5% water, but it maintains a very specific, slightly acidic pH of exactly 6.8. It's a total masterclass in biological balance, perfectly formulated to weaken incoming bacteria without, dissolving our own tooth enamel in the process. But that remaining 0.5% of your saliva, that's where the real magic happens. Digestion kicks off in the mouth with two main agents, lysozyme and ptyalin. Lysozyme is basically the literal security guard of your mouth. It spots and instantly destroys the walls of harmful bacteria. Meanwhile, ptyalin, which you might know as amylase, starts breaking down complex carbs into simple sugars right there on your tongue. That's exactly why, if you sit there and chew a dry piece of bread or roti for a really long time, it actually starts tasting sweet. It's a literal chemical reaction happening in real time.
And this brilliantly highlights how our tongue is way more than just a muscle. It's a highly advanced chemical sensor built purely for survival. The front of your tongue prioritizes sweet tastes, grabbing that instant carbohydrate energy. But the back? The back is strictly for bitter tastes. See, in nature, a lot of toxic plants are bitter, so keeping those receptors at the very back serves as this built-in emergency poison alarm system. It gives you a split-second warning to spit out something harmful right before you swallow it down.
All right, so once your bite of food is analyzed by those sensors, neutralized by the security guards, and broken down into simple sugars, it completely transforms. It becomes what scientists call a bolus. It's just chewed up food mixed with saliva, but now it's perfectly prepped and ready to travel safely down the esophagus and into the stomach.
Which brings us to Section 3, the body's main kitchen.
Once that bolus leaves the esophagus, it enters what we can basically call the body's main kitchen for some heavy-duty processing. This high-tech culinary operation relies on three absolute heavy hitters: the liver acting as our head chef, the gallbladder serving as the pantry, and the pancreas functioning as the master cook. Let's break down exactly what each of these guys is doing.
Let's start with the head chef, the liver. This thing is our largest gland, weighing in at a massive 1.5 kilograms. And honestly, beyond just making digestive chemicals, it acts like a super smart battery inverter. Through a really complex process called glycogenolysis, if you eat a massive meal and get a huge spike of sugar you don't immediately need, the liver packs that extra glucose away as glycogen. It safely stores it and then slowly releases it back into your bloodstream later so your energy stays perfectly stable. It's literally what keeps you from just passing out when you skip a meal.
The liver also produces bile, which is highly alkaline, usually hitting a pH between 7.6 and 8.6. This bile gets stored in the gallbladder, our trusty pantry. Now, bile performs this absolutely crucial job called emulsification. Basically, it takes massive, stubborn fat molecules and shatters them into tiny, manageable droplets. So what happens if someone has to have their gallbladder surgically removed? Well, the liver keeps dripping bile directly into the system, but you lose that storage pantry. Without that reserve of fat-breaking liquid ready to deploy on command, digesting a heavy, greasy junk food meal all at once becomes incredibly difficult. Next up is our master cook, the pancreas. It's the second largest gland in the body, and it's famous for being a mixed gland because it plays a brilliant dual role. On the endocrine side, it's secretly pumping hormones like insulin straight into your blood to manage your sugar levels. But on the exocrine side, it's releasing this incredibly powerful, complete digestive juice right into your food's path. This juice is fully loaded with heavy-hitting enzymes, trypsin, lipase, and amylase, meaning it can break down carbs, fats, and proteins all at the exact same time.
All right, let's move to section 4, the small intestine's tennis court.
So after surviving the heavy processing of the kitchen, your fully broken down food arrives at the main absorption center. Now you might be scratching your head wondering why an organ that measures a staggering 6 to 7.6 meters long is called the small intestine. Well, the answer is just its narrow diameter. Science names these intestines based on their width, not their length. The large intestine is actually way shorter at only 1.5 meters, but it's much wider. This massive 7-meter tract of small intestine is systematically broken down into 3 distinct sections: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. It's exactly across these 3 zones that the final stages of digestion wrap up. But more importantly, this is where the absolutely critical absorption of nearly every vital vitamin and mineral takes place.
But you gotta wonder, how does a simple, long tube absorb so much stuff? Well, actually, it's not a smooth pipe at all. The inside lining is densely packed with millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi and microvilli. Think of them exactly like the deep, fluffy fibers on a super high-quality bath towel. They're specifically designed to drastically increase the surface area so they can soak up every single bit of liquid and nutrient floating by.
And that brings us to one of the most mind-blowing statistics about the human body. Because of all these millions of tiny folds and microscopic projections, if you were to somehow flatten out all the microvilli in your small intestine, they would expand to cover the total surface area of an entire tennis court. Seriously, no way, right? A whole tennis court folded up inside your abdomen, just working away to make sure every last drop of life-sustaining nutrition gets pulled into your bloodstream.
Which leads us to section 5, appendix, story of our evolution.
Now let's take a quick look at a fascinating little 8 to 10 centimeter tube called the appendix. For the longest time, people just thought of it as this annoying ticking time bomb for appendicitis, but it actually tells this incredible story about our evolution. See, millions of years ago, our ancient ancestors ate a ton of raw plants and really tough tree bark. They absolutely needed a massive appendix to act as a fermentation chamber to break down all that heavy plant cellulose. But as humans invented fire and started cooking, our food got way softer. Suddenly, we just didn't need that massive biological machinery anymore. So, over countless generations, it slowly shrank down into the small, vestigial leftover organ we have today.
Finally, section 6, enzymes, real heroes of digestion.
You know, without our invisible little heroes, the enzymes, this whole beautiful anatomical machine would just grind to a complete halt. Enzymes are biological catalysts made of proteins, and they are basically magic. To put this into perspective, if you only had your natural body heat and internal water to digest the lunch you just ate, it wouldn't take hours. It would literally take years to break down those complex molecules. But enzymes step in and lower the required activation energy, making the whole process happen effortlessly in just a few short hours. And what's really absolutely crucial to understand is how specific they are. They operate on a super strict lock-and-key model. You can't just toss any enzyme at any food. You need the exact right chemical keys. Amylase specifically unlocks carbohydrates. Pepsin and trypsin are the exclusive keys for proteins. And lipase? That's the precise key for fats. They work in this perfect, synchronized harmony to chop your food down into pieces small enough to fit right through those tiny microvilli we were just talking about. As we wrap up this wild journey from the mouse security checkpoint all the way down to those tennis court-sized absorption centers, it leaves us with a really incredible, provocative thought to ponder. Take a second right now and ask yourself, how many millions of precise enzyme-driven chemical reactions are silently firing off inside your own 10-meter digestive tract at this exact moment, all working seamlessly together just to keep you alive and energized? It kind of completely changes the way you look at your next meal, doesn't it? Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with us today, and hey, keep asking questions about the amazing science happening right inside you.